Foundations, Learning Greek Grammar, Part 8. And I am thrilled to bring this topic to you tonight. We're going to try to make the Greek more accessible and practical for your personal devotion, study, and sermon prep. Now, what is the purpose of a webinar? Because this is very key as we head into this amazing topic. First and foremost, we try to provide training for Logos Bible software. We want you to learn how to use this tool more effectively. We're also going to provide training so you can study the topic for yourself. And this is key. We don't want to just feed you for a day. We want to feed you for a lifetime. And the best way to do that is show you how you can do this yourself. We include a personal book, by the way. Let me show you that real quick. Let me jump over to Logos. And this is how it's possible. We take all the notes. I take all the notes that I have, and I put them in a personal book that integrates into the Logos Bible software. So all the links are working, they're live. There's links to books, there's links to resources, there's links to searches, and so forth. So it's a very, very useful resource. And this will allow you, after the webinar, to study more deeply on this particular topic. We're also going to, along the way, provide biblical insights related to the topic. So that just makes it more exciting. And then, like I said, we provide materials so you can equip yourself and others like the personal book does. Now, what are tonight's topics? We're in the introduction right now. We're going to take a look very briefly at some recommended resources, and then we're going to get into some key grammatical topics. For example, conditional sentences. You've seen them, the if, then that are put in the text. What do we do with those, and how do we find them? Key conjunctions. This is very surprising. There's more to it than just the ands and the buts. Then there's the prepositions and how they can really help us gain insight into the verb and the nouns and so forth. We'll briefly touch upon speech and direct address, and then we'll talk about commands, do's and don'ts. And what's important with the commands is, believe it or not, there are commands that can be found in the text that may not be in the imperative mood. Now, if you're wondering what's the imperative mood, check out my session, Greek Session Foundations. That one we cover what the imperative is. It's also covered on my training DVDs as well. And then we'll end with the webinar with how to keep track of all this information. So there's a lot to be jam-packed into this presentation tonight, so let's get started right away. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on the books because I've been including them each session. So every personal book pretty much has the same resources at the front part. But you should be aware of these resources anyway. Now, there is a special Greek and Hebrew keyboard you can download. Check out LearnLogos.com shibboleth. There's also a great way to find some resources in your library. And the way to do this is pretty straightforward. I recommend you do this. Is go to your main menu at the top, and let's go ahead and click on Tools, and then choose from the menu Collections. Now, what I recommend that you do is create a collection titled Grammar: Greek. Now, you can do this for Hebrew too, but we're focusing on Greek tonight. So I'm going to look mine up since I've already created this. Grammar: Greek. This way you can organize all your grammar books into one collection, so when you're searching on grammatical concepts and ideas, they're going to come right from the best resources. So very, very important. And thanks, Matthew, for answering that question. Are the notes searchable in the Jonah workbook? And the answer is yes. So very, very helpful information. Now, the grammar collection is created with this following rule. The first one is just the two words Greek space grammar. But notice all these other items that I have here. These will remove the books that are not associated with grammars. And the reason I did this is some of the books do come through as a grammar. And we could have used that as a rule, but if you notice my list, there's other books that talk about Greek grammar, but are not listed as grammars. And so we needed a way to locate those. And so this is how we do it. Greek space grammar. And then we did minus type colon Bible commentary, minus type clause, minus type Hebrew, minus type Bible, minus subject colon Bible bibliography. And we got one more, minus type lexicon. Now, this rule is in the personal book, so you'll be able to simply copy and paste it and put it in there. Now, if you are wondering, where am I getting these ideas, minus type and minus title? You'll notice that currently I'm in, if you click on this icon here, I'm in the details view. There's 3 views in this section. The details view gives you access to these special columns. So here's the type column, and so I'm excluding any type that says Bible commentary, and there it goes. And then we have title. So by using the column title, so to speak, followed by a colon, and then putting in quotes whatever information we want from that section, we can either include or exclude something. So in the case of type Bible commentary, you can see that there's no Bible commentaries in this column, and that's because we excluded it. So this is a great way to organize your library so that you can more effectively search. And this is a very important strategy with Logos. Now, as I wrap things up, let me just make one other point, and that is the minuses always come at the end of the rule. Never put them at the front of the rule, and the minus is always, there's no space between the minus and the word that follows. So very key there. So that's just a brief cursory overview of that rule that'll help you create more grammars. I have some sections within the personal book. We have specialized resources. I'm not going to take too much time, but these are books like Diagrammatical Analysis, which teaches you how to diagram grammatically. There's Insights into the New Testament. Then we have some vocabulary and paradigm resources. So if you're in seminary or you're trying to learn Greek, these are the resources you're going to need. And there's even some audio to practice your vocabulary so to make sure you are pronouncing it correctly. If you're looking for a great set of simple resources, right here by Jonathan Pennington is one of them. He's got a great reading of the New Testament and some vocabulary as well, so take advantage of that. Greek readers are very useful. Again, they're there to help you practice your Greek reading. And then there's Introductory Resources, probably the best resource to get to begin to learn Greek, kind of lay that foundation, is right here by Dr. Lamerson, English Grammar to Ace New Testament Greek. I just can't recommend that book enough. A wonderful foundation. There's some other resources there like Kairos and Read Greek in 30 Days or Less and so forth. The next section after that is the intermediate grammars. Okay, these are going to go beyond the beginning stuff. This is going to get into the heavy duty. This is going to take you much more further into the language, and there's going to be greater explanations, more examples in these resources. So when you're ready to move to the next level, I would recommend these resources. I also recommend that you have at least a sample of all of them. You want to have these introductory grammars. You want to have these English-based resources. You want to have some intermediate as well. It's nice to have a combination. Logos is now making these available as single buy books. In the past, you can only buy these as part of a large, expensive collection. Those days are gone. So most of these resources, you should be able to buy one off, which is great. And then we have advanced resource grammars. These are extremely technical, lots and lots of pages, lots and lots of paragraphs to get to the information, but they are handy. So take advantage of those. And again, like I said, have one or two English-based grammars, one or two English introductory grammars, one or two intermediate grammars, and at least one advanced resource grammar. And then last thing is make sure you know how to search your theological journals. If you don't have these, I can't stress this enough, get them, find a way this Christmas. They are a phenomenal resource, and they cover every significant word, phrase, topic, controversy. They have a lot of issues dealing with Greek grammar and Hebrew grammar. It's just such a helpful resource. And so we show you how to create that collection here. We've done this in other webinars, so I won't do it here. And let's do this. Let's start off with how do you find a grammar article, okay? Just a real simple search. So I'm going to do a search, do basic search, and I'm going to use that collection that we just created, the Grammar Greek. And what I like to do is I like to do a large text, and then I put in the name of the rule. Let's say some kind of grammatical word or vocabulary, in this case, vocative. And then I would just simply search on that. And by using the large text, what I'm going to get is headings or major sections of articles where this word is discussed. So here we are at Basics of Biblical Greek by Mounts, and here we have a section all on the vocative. So don't just search for the word all by itself, okay? You don't want to do that because look what happens. You get 2,000 results, and you're getting every place this word is mentioned. Now, that may be necessary if you're really looking for more information, but getting started, use that large text. That is just definitely the way to go. This question came up last week, or my last webinar. Some people have been using the phrase heading. You can use that one too. They're both essentially the same. It's just that Logos has tagged books differently. Some books are tagged with large text. Some are tagged with heading. And so you are going to get different search results depending on which one you use. I tend to lean on the large text because that one is probably the one that's most often used. But if you're not getting the search results you want, definitely use the heading tag as an alternative. And if you want to just be right out of the gate, get everything, do this kind of search, large text with the title you're searching for, or heading, colon, and the title you're looking for. And that will ensure that you're covering both ends and you'll get the most search results back. So you can see here we got 81. If I were to take out that one section, I get 28 results. And if I were to put in the other one, I'd probably get about 53 results. And so it is a different combination. But even though it's different combination, notice I'm still getting the same sections back. So there is some overlap. So even though it comes back with, twice as many, that's not a true number. Okay, it may be counted twice, but it's just the same article in both cases. So as you noticed here, if we do it both, we got 53 results and 53 articles and 21 resources. If I go over here to the right and do my search history, you'll notice that I've got 27 resources. So really I'm getting 6 more books that I didn't get any other way. That's really how you can tell. 63 articles, so I did get some more articles back as well. So just be aware of that difference there. That can go a long way. So what I want to do tonight is briefly introduce you to these key concepts because they do make a difference in the interpretive process. So the first one is conditional sentences. This is when you see in the text, if, then. Now, what you may not realize is there's 4 flavors of the if, then statement in the Greek. Now, let's see if we can find in your library any books that talk about conditional sentences. The search we want to run is really straightforward. It's search, basic search. Again, we're going to search our Greek grammar, and then we're going to use this particular phrase, large text conditional sentences. And depending on how many books you have in your library, you're going to get a handful or more resources coming back. As you can see here, most of the grammar books are going to discuss this topic one way or the other. Now, let me do a breakdown so you can kind of understand what's going on, because when you read about conditional sentences, there's a lot of jargon that's thrown at you. So what I've done to make it easier to see this is I've color-coded it. So you have the if, that's called the protasis. And then you have the then statement, which is the apodosis. You might see it also as this way, the if clause and the result clause. Another set of terms you'll see is the antecedent and the consequent. That jargon is all different ways of saying the same thing, if, then. Now, there is a relationship between the protasis and the apodosis. And it's really important to understand that there's flavors even within the relationship. For example, there's a cause and effect between the if and the then. For example, if you break the law, there's your cause. What's going to be the effect? You will go to jail. The next one is evidence inference, or better known as fact conclusion. Let me give you an example here. If he is blind, then he can't see. Do you see how we're presenting evidence or presenting facts? And then there's these conclusions we can make from that. And then there's equivalence. Think of A equals B. If you can sing well, then people will like your voice. Now, there's a close affinity relationship between these last two. It can be very subtle, almost to the point where it's almost indistinguishable between the two. Don't worry, I just want to make sure you're aware of this possibility. But those are the 3 flavors. So when you think about it, that's a level of subtlety and detail that maybe you haven't seen before, but nevertheless are just as important. Now let's go into each of the 4 types of conditional sentences. And we're going to have some examples and show you how to do this. This is really key because when you come to a if-then statement, you've got to ask the question, first class, second class, third class, fourth class. Now, the good news is most of these can be discerned by looking at the original language. Now, if you don't know Greek, no worries. I'm going to show you some searches that you can construct that will find it automatically for you. The first class conditional statement, what is it? The protasis is presumed to be true. So when this is a first class statement and we look at the if part of the statement is assumed to be true. Now, the way this is constructed in the Greek is we use the a, which is the plus a verb, in the indicative, and it can be any tense. Sometimes this can be presented as a negative with an oo, and that's possible. The then part of the statement can be any mood. So let me give you an example how to think of this conceptually. So again, we're talking first class. If, and then here's the idea, let's agree this is true. Then the result should occur. Another way of looking at this is, for argument's sake, let's presume this is true. Now, one thing you have to be careful of with first classes is many people will just kind of flippantly say, just translate it as since. Since this is true, then this will result. And that will work for at least half of them, but for the other half, it's not going to work. So just be aware that you can't just generalize this way. Now, let me give you some examples here from a commentary where you can see this at work. So I'm just going to open up a commentary here, and this is the Pillar New Testament. And this is verse 3 from Matthew chapter 4. And this is the devil when he comes, and the tempter came and said to Jesus, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread." Now, this is a first-class conditional statement, and we'll look at this why in a minute. But let's just see what the commentator says. The commentator goes on to say this: the evil one is seen in his capacity as the tempter. He came to tempt Jesus to do what was wrong. He begins with an "if you are the Son of God." So since this is a first-class conditional statement, we have to presume that the if is true. So this becomes a great argument, indirectly, keep in mind, of showing the deity of Jesus. Here's the devil coming along saying, if you're the Son of God, since we're assuming you are the Son of God. Now, there is a certain subtlety here, for the first-class conditional seems to assume the reality of the case, if you are the Son of God, as you are. But while yet the if suggests a little bit of doubt, it might be well to bring some proof of this. And so anyway, I wanted to show you how this can make a difference in the interpretation. He's saying to Jesus, if you are the Son of God, and let's assume you are, then the outcome should be that you could turn this stuff into bread. If you make these stones into bread, then that will truly prove that you're the Son of God. Now, this is a trick of Satan trying to be deceptive. It's not going to work against Christ. But this is the idea behind this first-class conditional. Now, let me show you how to create a search where you can find every first-class conditional statement in the New Testament. This is pretty cool. I'm going to do first a syntax search and open this up. Now, I've already created this ahead of time to save time. Just so you know, the personal book will have the image, so you'll be able to copy this exactly the way I have. But I want to walk you through at least the process and how I created it. When you start off with a new syntax search, and let me do that. I'm going to dock this tab, and I'm going to go to search, and I'm going to go to syntax, and I'm going to go to query, and I'm going to go to new. So let me do that again because that's a lot to cover, okay? So we go to search on the magnifying glass, we go to syntax, we go to query, and we go to new syntax search. Now this is where the window opens up, and let me dock this so we can put them side by side. You'll notice that as soon as you start this, you've got this add search terms here. Now I recommend working from the right to the left. Now what I mean by that, in other words, finding the lowest level of information. Now let's go to that particular verse that was mentioned in our commentary. So let me go back to my example here, and that was Matthew 4:3. And I'm going to turn the interlinear on so we can see the original language, so you can kind of see this at work here. And if we go to the if statement here, here is that EI, if you are the Son of God. Now, it's really important with the interlinear to remember that the English is the one that the word order is being used. So that means the Greek is going to change the word order to match the English. So here we have and the way to know that is if you look at the Greek word, underneath it is a small number, subscript, and here it is, number 7. So 7, then 8 is son, so it's if son, you are, 9, 10, 11, God, then 12, command, 13, that, 14, stones, 15, 16, bread, 17, 18, become these. Okay, that's literally the order of the Greek. But I wanted you to see this A part in here. Let's go back to our syntax and just add the first word. So I'm going to click on the plus. I'm going to choose word. I'm going to choose word. I'm going to click on word to make sure this box at the right opens up. I'm going to go to lemma, and I'm going to type in G:, By typing in G colon, I now can start typing Greek letters. EI is A, and literally you just type in EI. In a few moments, Logos will generate a list of Greek words, and there it is. There's our if and whether. So we'll click on that. Once it's in there, press enter or click the white arrow in the blue circle. And you did it. You got your first word added. This optional, I added this because if we were dealing with negatives, then the optional would come in handy. Let's skip that for now to just keep this example simple. You'll have it in the notes.